Hi, Deb here, and I hope to show you all today something very exciting about women and about how Yeshua wants us cared for, how he loves us, and we matter to him. And there are some pretty special people, women, who played a very special role, is what I meant to say, in the kingdom of heaven and here on earth. And I think that these roles that they play will show you a little bit about Yahweh's heart towards us. I think it's going to be exciting whether you are male or female. There's been many movements to kind of downplay women and make us feel like we are less than men. But, if you look in Genesis, you will see that women came out of man. We are a part of mankind. We are a part of men. So we can't be less than because we came out of man. So anyway, also I wanted to just remind people that in the Roman Catholic movement, there was a time where women, they didn't even believe that we could be saved. These kinds of doctrines, I believe, come from men who don't like women. So, and because men innately want to be super important, which they are. I'm not taking away from that. But I think that sometimes in their desire to be super important, they will act like we are completely unimportant. So, anyway, I have been working my way through the Gospels directly translated from the Hebrew. So I have long times thought that we should have the Gospels in Hebrew, that we should not be going to the Greek to find out what the disciples meant and what Yeshua meant. We shouldn't have to go back to that because he's a Hebrew Messiah. He's not a Greek demigod, so we shouldn't be looking to Greek to find out what he's trying to say. So I have been praying that these would come out, and they have been out for a while, but I have not been aware of them before this year. So my prayer had been that somebody would take these books out of the Vatican, because I think much truth is stored there that we are not allowed to have. And that's exactly where these came from. So I am going to read just a little bit out of there, and the part that sparked this. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the martyrdom of the 12 apostles. And we're going to talk a little bit about Judith and Susanna and Daniel. So I pray that you will stay tuned. I may break this up into 2 or 3 different parts so it's not overly long. And I hope that my heater going off here will not annoy you. So stay tuned. Okay, so now the mother of Yeshua and Miriam, that's not going to work. All right, starting in the Gospel of John. Now the mother of Yeshua and Miriam, the wife of Alphi, which is Alphaeus, the sister of the mother of Yeshua and Miriam Magdalene, stood near the warp and woof of Yeshua. So it was called the warp and woof, but it is the cross. So when Yeshua saw his mother standing nearby, and the Talmud, Talmud, the disciple, whom he loved exceedingly, he turned to his mother and said, "Woman, behold your son." Afterwards he said to the Talmud, "Behold your mother." At that time the Talmud took her as his own mother. So what I wanted to show you was that according to the Gospel of John, I believe the other Gospels are totally in agreement with this, there were only a couple of people that stood near him while he was on the cross. His mother Mary, Miriam Magdalene, and John. Why is this important? Well, the other disciples It says mostly the women. It doesn't even say that the other disciples were there. It's like the men that he had chosen didn't seem to be there. And the other disciples that were women stood afar off. So I think they were afraid. I think the men were afraid that they were going to get crucified as well. But not just that. For me, I think it would be a terribly painful thing to stay and watch Yeshua on the cross. But his mother and Mary Magdalene and John did not want him to be alone on that cross. So they stood there and endured the pain with him. And Yeshua assigned his mother's care to John. And John did take care of her. So then when I was reading this, I felt the Holy Spirit direct me to look up the martyrdom of the apostles. So I did, and that's what we're going to look at right now. Okay, so we look at all the different martyrdoms of the apostles. So Bartholomew, let's see. He was beaten with rods, and after having been thus scourged, he was beheaded. James, the son of Alphaeus, he was beaten, stoned, and clubbed to death. Andrew, the cross on which he suffered is commonly held to have been the Decusic cross. I don't know what that is. Now known as St. Andrew's, though the evidence for this view seems to be no older than the 14th century. His martyrdom took place during the reign of Nero on November 30th, AD 60, and both the Latin and Greek churches keep November 30th as his feast. Peter, it is believed that Peter was crucified upside down in Rome during the 60s. Judas was not a martyr because he killed himself for what he did to Yeshua. John is believed to have died of natural causes, the only one, and he might have been the only apostle to have done so. Thomas was killed with a spear according to Fox's Book of Martyrs, called Didymus, preached the gospel in Parthia and India, where, exciting the rage of the pagan priests, he was martyred by being thrust through with a spear. James, the son of Zebedee, the martyrdom of James, the son of Zebedee, is recorded in the New Testament in the Bible. He was executed with a sword by King Herod. Philip was crucified according to Fox's Book of Martyrs. He labored diligently in Upper Asia and suffered martyrdom at Heliopolis. He was scourged, thrown into prison, and afterwards crucified. Matthew was killed with a spear according to Fox's Book of Martyrs. This scene of his labors was Parthia and Ethiopia. And Thaddeus, or as we know him, Jude was crucified according to Fox's Book of Martyrs. The brother of James was commonly called Thaddeus. He was crucified at Edessa in 72. Simon was crucified according to the Fox's Book of Martyrs, surnamed Zelotes, preached the gospel in Mauritania, Africa, even Britain, in which latter country he was crucified in AD 74. So as you see, the only disciple who was not martyred was John, who stood there and suffered with Yeshua the cross of Yeshua, and stood there with the mother and with Mary Magdalene, and I'm sure they all were comforting each other, which I think is awesome. I'm not sure that I could have done what John did, but what John did was awesome. And he was rewarded. He was rewarded for staying there with Yeshua, and he was rewarded for taking care of Mary, Yeshua's earthly mom. Okay, next we're going to read from Judges